6 months ago, during what should have been a routine surgery to remove a benign tumor, my heart stopped beating for 7 minutes and 13 seconds. What happened during those 7 minutes changed everything I thought I knew about life, purpose, and why some of us feel so alone or struggle financially no matter how hard we work. My name is Natalie Gilbert, and I never thought I would die at 36. I'm sharing this deeply personal story not to convince you of anything, but because I feel compelled to pass on what was revealed to me. If you've ever felt inexplicably alone despite being kind and loving, if you've ever struggled financially despite your talents and hard work, then my testimony is for you. But before we start, please let me know where you're listening from. It will be nice to feel closer, even if we're physically apart. Also, don't forget to like and comment on what you thought about this near-death experience testimony. Let's have a fair and open discussion so we can learn from each other on this channel. Enjoy listening. The day that changed everything started normally enough. After years of dealing with chronic pain, doctors had finally found a benign growth pressing against my sciatic nerve. The surgery was supposed to be straightforward, a 3-hour procedure followed by a brief hospital stay and then recovery at home. I remember the preoperative procedures, the cold hospital room, the papery gown, the gentle nurse who held my hand as the anesthesiologist explained that I would be counting backward from 10. What I didn't know then was that I would have a severe allergic reaction to the anesthesia. My blood pressure plummeted catastrophically, and my heart stopped beating. The medical report would later describe it in clinical terms as anaphylactic shock leading to cardiac arrest, but those sterile words couldn't begin to capture what happened next. The first sensation wasn't darkness, but a sudden, profound lightness. It felt as though every burden I had ever carried, physical pain, emotional wounds, financial worries, the weight of not belonging, all of it lifted at once. I felt myself rising, separating from my body with a strange detachment that should have terrified me but somehow didn't. Below me, I could see the operating room in perfect detail, the surgeons and nurses moving with urgent precision around my motionless body, the anesthesiologist calling out orders, someone performing chest compressions. I should have been panicked, but instead, I felt an overwhelming peace and a curious detachment, as if watching a movie about someone else. Then I noticed a warm, inviting light. Unlike any light I'd experienced before, it didn't hurt my eyes or feel intrusive. Instead, it felt nourishing, like the warmth of sunshine after months of winter. The light grew stronger, and I felt drawn toward it, moving away from the operating room scene that seemed increasingly distant and less relevant. As I moved toward the light, I entered what seemed like a tunnel or corridor. The hospital fell away completely, and I experienced a sense of movement without actually traveling physically. It's difficult to describe in earthly terms, but the closest comparison would be that feeling of coming home after a very long, exhausting journey, the relief and recognition of finally returning to where you truly belong. Then I became aware of a presence, vast, loving, and infinitely wise. This presence radiated an unconditional love so profound that it made even the deepest human love seem like a pale imitation. I felt completely known, completely seen, and completely accepted just as I was, with all my flaws and struggles. The presence began to take form as I drew closer. Slowly, features emerged from the light, a face of such compassion and understanding that tears would have fallen if I'd still had a physical body. The face was both familiar from countless paintings and sculptures throughout history, yet completely different, more real, more alive than any artistic representation could capture. I recognized him immediately, not just from cultural imagery, but from some deeper place of knowing. It was Jesus, though not exactly as depicted in traditional religious art. His eyes held ancient wisdom and infinite compassion. His presence conveyed authority without domination, strength without intimidation, and love without condition. When he spoke, it wasn't with physical words, but through direct transmission of thought and feeling. "Child," he said, "you have returned home for a brief while. There is much for you to understand about your journey on earth." His presence dispelled any lingering fear or confusion. I felt completely safe, completely held, completely loved in a way I had never experienced in physical life. Then Jesus guided me to what I can only describe as a panoramic viewing space where my entire life played out before us, not as a simple chronological replay, but as interconnected moments revealing patterns and purpose I had never recognized before. I saw myself as a sensitive child, aware of subtleties and energies that others couldn't perceive, often overwhelmed by environments where others seemed comfortable. I watched my teenage years unfold, the growing sense of isolation despite attempts to fit in, the confusion about why connections that came easily to others required so much energy from me. "Watch closely," Jesus communicated. "See how your light affected those around you." To my astonishment, I could now perceive the energetic interactions that had been invisible to me in life. When I entered rooms, my energy, which appeared as a bright pulsing light, would illuminate the shadows in others. Sometimes this caused them to draw closer, attracted to the warmth, but often it caused discomfort or even retreat, as my presence inadvertently revealed aspects of themselves they weren't ready to acknowledge. "You have felt alone," Jesus explained, "not because you are unlovable, but because you carry a light that is unfamiliar and sometimes uncomfortable for those still walking in shadows. Your ability to see truth beyond illusion, to sense inconsistency between words and intentions, to feel energies that others ignore, these gifts have often created distance between you and those not ready to perceive at your level." I watched scenes from my adult life, friendships that had suddenly cooled without explanation, romantic relationships that had begun with intensity but faded when partners felt inexplicably exposed or challenged by my presence, even when I said nothing critical. "Your light reveals truth," Jesus continued. "For those ready to grow, this is a blessing. For those committed to their illusions, it feels threatening. This is why many chosen ones walk a solitary path, not as punishment, but as a natural consequence of their heightened awareness." The term chosen ones resonated through my consciousness, carrying with it a meaning far deeper than the words themselves. Who are the chosen ones? They are souls who volunteered to carry more light into the world during this critical time of transformation, Jesus explained. They agreed to awaken earlier in the collective journey, to hold higher frequencies even when it meant walking a more challenging path. Their purpose isn't to be superior, but to serve as bridges, helping to anchor new ways of being into the physical realm. As he spoke, I understood that this wasn't about being better than others, but about having different soul assignments. The chosen aspect wasn't about superiority, but about agreements made before incarnation, commitments to serve in specific ways during this pivotal time in human evolution. The scene shifted to show the pattern of my financial life, the promising opportunities that dissolved, the careers that never quite stabilized, the persistent sense of working harder than others for less material reward. "Now observe the deeper patterns at work in your financial journey," Jesus instructed. I watched as my younger self repeatedly faced decisions between following soul values and pursuing financial gain. Time after time, when presented with opportunities that would have compromised my integrity, authenticity, or purpose, I had chosen alignment with my deeper values, often unconsciously, but consistently. "Your financial struggles have not been punishment or failure," Jesus explained. "They have been the natural consequence of a soul whose frequency does not align with the current materialistic systems of your world." He showed me how money in the current human system is largely tied to energetic frequencies of competition, scarcity, separation, and material identification, frequencies that chosen ones often cannot maintain for long without becoming energetically ill or depleted. When chosen ones attempt to succeed in systems built on values that contradict their soul essence, they experience what feels like an energetic immune response, he explained. This creates what appears as bad luck, missed opportunities, or financial blocks, but is actually soul protection. With perfect clarity, I saw how my financial struggles weren't random but reflected a fundamental misalignment between my soul's frequency and the predominant financial systems. This wasn't about inability or unworthiness, but about energetic incompatibility with systems designed for different purposes than those I had come to serve. Does this mean chosen ones are destined to struggle financially forever? I asked, feeling a mixture of understanding and concern. Jesus smiled and said, "Not at all. It means they are pioneers of a new relationship with abundance, one based on different laws than those currently governing Earth's economies. The struggle exists primarily when they try to succeed by the old rules rather than aligning with new ways of creating and receiving." He showed me how my financial journey had actually been preparing me all along, teaching me to trust beyond physical evidence, to value what truly matters, to develop gifts that would serve the emerging world rather than the fading one, and to release dependency on external validation or security. "Your challenges have been preparation, not punishment," he emphasized. You are learning to create from higher laws that will become more accessible and operational as humanity's consciousness evolves. The panorama shifted again, now focusing on my relationships, the patterns of connection and disconnection, the people who had come and gone, the persistent sense of not quite belonging even among those I loved. Now understand the energetic truth of your relationships, Jesus guided. I watched scenes from my life playing out with a new perception, able to see the energy exchanges that had been invisible to me before. In conversation after conversation, interaction after interaction, I could now perceive how my energy affected others. When I spoke truth that contradicted social pretense, I could see others' discomfort manifest as defensive energy. When my presence naturally amplified others' unacknowledged emotions, I could see them unconsciously blame me for making them feel what they weren't ready to face. When my authenticity inadvertently highlighted others' masks, I could see their resentment form even as they smiled outwardly. Chosen ones serve as mirrors, Jesus explained, not by choice or action, but by the simple fact of their energetic presence. Their higher frequency amplifies whatever is ready to be seen in those they encounter. For people committed to growth, this feels supportive and clarifying. For those committed to avoidance, it feels threatening. I saw how even my silence was sometimes perceived as judgment, how my boundaries were often interpreted as rejection, how my need for truth was frequently experienced as criticism by those comfortable with half-truths. This is why many chosen ones experience the paradox of being both magnetic and repelling, Jesus continued. Their light attracts others seeking illumination, but when that light reveals what others prefer to keep hidden, connection becomes uncomfortable. I felt a deep sadness watching these patterns, understanding for the first time why connections that seemed promising so often dissolved without apparent cause. Do not grieve these patterns, Jesus said gently. They have served an important purpose in your development. The loneliness you have experienced has protected you from relationships that would have depleted your energy and distracted you from your purpose. It has reserved your deepest connections for those who can truly receive and reciprocate at your level. I watched how the periods of isolation in my life had actually been times of greatest inner growth, forcing me to develop self-reliance, intuitive connection, and deeper discernment about relationships. I saw how my loneliness had pushed me toward authentic self-knowledge rather than allowing me to lose myself in others' perceptions. Your periods of solitude have been sacred preparation, Jesus explained. They have strengthened your direct connection to Source, developed your unique gifts, and protected your sensitivity until you learned proper energetic boundaries. This solitude has not been abandonment but spiritual cocooning, the necessary isolation that precedes emergence. As Jesus guided me through these revelations, a profound understanding began to take shape. The very experiences that had caused me the most pain and confusion, the sense of not belonging, the financial instability despite my best efforts, were revealed as essential aspects of my soul's journey rather than random suffering or personal failure. Chosen ones often mistake their purposeful path for personal shortcoming, Jesus said. They interpret their deviation from conventional patterns as failure rather than necessary divergence. Their struggles are not punishment but preparation for the role they came to fulfill. He showed me how my unique path, with all its loneliness and material challenges, had been developing precisely the qualities, insights, and strengths I would need for my true purpose. Nothing had been wasted. Nothing had been a mistake. Every struggle had been developing spiritual muscle and depth that would have remained dormant in a more comfortable life. But why must it be so difficult? I asked. The difficulty is proportional to the transformation being undertaken, he explained. Chosen ones are not just living individual lives, they are embodying evolutionary shifts for the collective. They have volunteered to translate higher frequencies into physical form, to anchor new patterns of consciousness into the material world. This is profound work that requires profound preparation. He showed me how the challenges chosen ones face are actually evidence of their significant role rather than their failure or punishment. Their path is difficult precisely because their purpose is substantial. The isolation and financial challenges serve multiple purposes, Jesus continued. They prevent chosen ones from becoming too comfortable in systems they came to help transform. They develop the resilience, creativity, and self-reliance necessary for pioneering work. They ensure that chosen ones cannot derive their sense of worth from conventional sources, forcing them to discover their innate value beyond social measures. Then Jesus began to explain the energetic mechanics behind the patterns that chosen ones experience, particularly the seemingly paradoxical combination of extraordinary gifts with extraordinary challenges. To understand why chosen ones often walk alone or struggle financially, he began, you must first understand the nature of energy and frequency in the universe. He showed me how all of creation exists as patterns of energy vibrating at different frequencies. Lower frequencies appeared dense, slow, and opaque. Higher frequencies appeared lighter, faster, and more luminous. Human consciousness, I could now perceive, was not fixed at any single frequency but moved up and down a vast spectrum depending on thoughts, emotions, actions, and intentions. The current systems of your world, economic, social, political, were created at and function optimally for a specific range of frequencies, Jesus explained. These systems were appropriate for a certain stage of human development, but humanity is now evolving beyond them. He showed me how chosen ones carry frequencies that are significantly higher than the norm, not because they are better, but because they agreed to serve as evolutionary bridges, anchoring more advanced frequencies into the physical realm to help facilitate collective transformation. This frequency difference creates natural challenges, he continued. It's like trying to play music written for one instrument on a completely different instrument. The chosen one's energy is fundamentally different from the energy that created and maintains current systems. I saw how this frequency incompatibility manifested in practical terms. In relationships, it created a sense of otherness that could feel like rejection or isolation. In financial matters, it created a misalignment with systems built on competition, scarcity, and material identification. Chosen ones struggle financially not because they lack ability, intelligence, or worth, Jesus explained, but because their energy naturally resists frequencies of fear, manipulation, and separation that still dominate many economic activities. Their soul essence simply cannot maintain the vibrational patterns required to succeed in systems built on these lower frequencies. He showed me how chosen ones often unconsciously sabotage their financial success because on a soul level, they sense that succeeding in misaligned systems would require energetic compromise too damaging to their purpose. Their apparent failure is actually their soul's wisdom protecting their true mission. Similarly, chosen ones often experience isolation not because they are unlovable, Jesus continued, but because their frequency naturally exposes incongruence and truth in ways that can be uncomfortable for those not ready to face their own shadows. Their mere presence can trigger unconscious resistance in others. I understood now why I had often felt like an unwilling catalyst, somehow provoking reactions in others without intending to, somehow exposing truths without speaking them. My energy itself had been the catalyst, not my words or actions. This is why chosen ones often find themselves alone or with very few deep connections, Jesus explained. Most people are not yet vibrating at frequencies that allow for comfortable sustained interaction with the chosen one's natural energy. Then Jesus guided me deeper into understanding. He showed me another dimension of the chosen one's journey, how their light inevitably reveals shadows, both in themselves and others. Your light, the higher frequency you carry, naturally illuminates what has been hidden, he explained. This is neither good nor bad, it is simply the nature of light to reveal what exists in darkness. He showed me how this illuminating quality operated in my relationships. When I entered certain environments or interactions, my presence naturally highlighted inconsistencies, unacknowledged emotions, or unspoken truths that others preferred to keep hidden. Not because I said or did anything, but simply because my energy amplified what was already there, making it more visible. This is why many people experience discomfort around chosen ones without understanding why, Jesus continued. The chosen one's light reveals aspects of themselves they are not ready to see or acknowledge. Rather than face these revelations, they often unconsciously distance themselves from the chosen one, sometimes even creating justifications for their withdrawal. I saw how this pattern had played out countless times in my life. Connections that had started promisingly only to cool without explanation, friendships that had suddenly developed tension without obvious cause, romantic relationships where partners became increasingly defensive or distant despite my best efforts at understanding. This revelation of shadow is never the chosen one's fault, Jesus emphasized. It is simply the inevitable effect of light in darkness. The chosen one's presence serves as a catalyst for potential growth, but each person maintains free will about whether to embrace that growth opportunity or retreat from it. He showed me how this dynamic even affected professional relationships and opportunities, how my presence in work environments often unconsciously threatened those invested in maintaining status quo or hiding incompetence. My natural tendency toward truth and transparency sometimes created unconscious enemies among those benefiting from lack of clarity. This is one reason why chosen ones often struggle in traditional career paths, Jesus explained. Their energy naturally pushes toward authenticity, integrity, and meaningful purpose, qualities that can threaten systems built on appearances, hierarchy, and profit above all else. I understand now that my professional challenges weren't simply bad luck or personal inadequacy, but reflected a fundamental energetic mismatch between my natural frequency and the frequency of many conventional work environments. Does this mean chosen ones are destined to struggle forever? I asked, still concerned about the practical implications of these patterns. Not at all, Jesus said. It means they are pioneers, early arrivals in a frequency that is gradually becoming more available to all. As more of humanity awakens to higher frequencies, chosen ones will find more resonant connections and opportunities. Their time of greatest alienation comes just before their time of greatest belonging. Then Jesus guided me next to a deeper understanding of the financial patterns that had confused and frustrated me throughout my life. With his assistance, I could now perceive the energetic dimensions of money and material success that had been invisible to me before. In your current world, he began, money flows most easily along pathways of certain energetic frequencies, particularly frequencies of competition, separation, scarcity consciousness, and material identification. These frequencies were appropriate for a certain stage of human development, but are now beginning to shift. He showed me how financial systems had evolved throughout human history, each stage reflecting the predominant consciousness of its time. The current systems, he explained, were created during and still largely reflect a consciousness focused on material acquisition, hierarchical power, and separation, a consciousness that many souls are now evolving beyond. Chosen ones carry frequencies of unity, cooperation, abundance consciousness, and purpose beyond material identification, Jesus continued. These frequencies, while evolutionarily advanced, create natural friction with current economic systems. It's like trying to tune your radio to frequencies the current receiver wasn't designed to detect. I saw with perfect clarity how my own financial struggles reflected this frequency mismatch. My natural values and energetic patterns simply didn't align with the predominant financial pathways of the current system. This wasn't failure, it was a reflection of my soul's commitment to anchoring new patterns rather than perpetuating old ones. Your financial challenges have served multiple purposes, Jesus said. They have prevented you from becoming too comfortable in systems that do not serve your highest evolution. They have developed your resilience, creativity, and trust beyond physical evidence. They have ensured that your sense of worth comes from your essence rather than external validation or material success. He showed me how my persistent financial struggles had actually been protecting me from distractions and detours that would have delayed or diminished my true purpose. Had I achieved easy conventional success, I might never have developed the spiritual muscles, insights, and compassion that were essential to my soul's mission. The financial path of chosen ones is not about deprivation, Jesus emphasized, but about developing a new relationship with abundance, one based on spiritual laws rather than material manipulation. Their challenges are not punishment but preparation for anchoring new templates of prosperity based on different principles than those currently governing Earth's economies. I understood now that my financial journey hadn't been a series of failures but a necessary training ground, developing precisely the qualities, perspectives, and trust that would be required for the purpose I had come to fulfill. Does this mean chosen ones must remain in financial struggle? Not at all, he assured me. It means they must stop trying to succeed by old rules and begin creating from new ones. As chosen ones align with their authentic purpose and stop forcing themselves into misaligned systems, they open to forms of abundance that flow through different channels than conventional finance. He showed me how chosen ones who had embraced their unique path rather than fighting against it had eventually discovered unexpected forms of provision, not through conventional climbing of career ladders, but through authentic expression of their gifts in service to evolutionary purpose. The key is to stop interpreting struggle as failure, Jesus emphasized, and recognize it as recalibration. Chosen ones are not meant to succeed in the old world, they are meant to help create the new one. Their abundance comes not from mastering old systems but from pioneering new ones. As our journey continued, Jesus guided me to understand more fully what it means to be a chosen one, beyond the experiences of isolation and financial challenge. Being chosen is not about superiority, he began, dispelling any notion of elitism. It is about service and soul agreements. Before incarnating, certain souls volunteer to come to Earth during this pivotal time, carrying specific frequencies and awareness that would help facilitate humanity's evolutionary shift. He showed me how chosen ones had agreed to awaken earlier in the collective journey, to remember their true nature and higher purpose while many still slept in forgetting. This early awakening was not a privilege but a responsibility that came with significant challenges. Chosen ones agreed to carry light into density, to hold higher frequencies even when surrounded by lower ones, to remember truth even while immersed in illusion, Jesus explained. This role requires tremendous spiritual strength and comes with unique difficulties. He revealed how chosen ones typically experience several common patterns throughout their lives. From early childhood, they sense their differences without understanding it, he continued. They often feel like outsiders or as if they don't belong, even in their own families. They frequently experience a sense of homesickness for a place they cannot name and a knowledge they cannot quite access. I saw how these patterns had manifested in my own life, the persistent feeling from earliest childhood that I was somehow different, the inexplicable nostalgia for something I couldn't identify, the sense of carrying knowledge just beyond the reach of my conscious mind. Chosen ones typically experience a challenging adolescence and early adulthood, Jesus went on, as they struggle to reconcile their inner knowing with external conditioning. They often try desperately to fit in, to follow conventional paths, only to find that these attempts create inner distress and eventually fail. Again, I recognized my own journey in this description. The painful teenage years trying to conform, the college experience following conventional wisdom about practical career paths, the early professional life attempting to succeed in systems that felt fundamentally wrong without understanding why. In early to mid-adulthood, chosen ones typically experience a period of intense crisis and awakening, Jesus continued. This often involves collapse of identity, relationship dissolution, career disruption, health challenges, or other significant life upheavals that force fundamental questioning of everything they believed. I saw how my own life had followed this pattern, a series of increasing crises in my late 20s and early 30s that had dismantled my carefully constructed identity and forced me to question everything I thought I knew about success, purpose, and fulfillment. This crisis period is not punishment but necessary dismantling, Jesus said. It breaks down the conditioning and false structures that prevent the chosen one from embodying their true essence and purpose. It is a sacred initiation, though it rarely feels like one while being experienced. He showed me how this initiatory period typically leads to a time of rebuilding, where chosen ones begin to consciously align with their authentic nature and purpose, rather than external expectations or conventional definitions of success. After this rebuilding, chosen ones enter their true service phase, Jesus continued. Having undergone their own transformation, they become equipped to assist others through similar processes. Their challenges become their credentials, their wounds become their wisdom. I understood now that the very experiences that had caused me the most suffering were also my greatest assets, developing the compassion, insight, and authenticity necessary to fulfill my purpose of helping others navigate similar territory. The chosen one's path is not about reaching some final destination of perfection, Jesus emphasized. It is about becoming an effective bridge, translating higher consciousness into practical earthly expression during this pivotal time of collective transformation. Then Jesus revealed the larger context of the chosen one's experience, how their individual struggles connected to a greater evolutionary purpose for all of humanity. Humanity is undergoing a fundamental shift in consciousness, he explained. This shift is moving the collective from separation consciousness to unity awareness, from fear-based creation to love-based creation, from external authority to inner knowing. He showed me how this evolutionary shift was not just philosophical or spiritual but affected every aspect of human experience: relationships, economics, governance, education, healthcare, and more. All human systems were being challenged to evolve from patterns based on old consciousness to expressions aligned with emerging awareness. Chosen ones are evolutionary catalysts, Jesus continued. They incarnated specifically to help facilitate this transition, to anchor new frequencies, demonstrate new possibilities, and assist others through the inevitable challenges of such profound change. I saw how chosen ones were distributed throughout the world in all cultures, walks of life, and contexts, each carrying specific aspects of the new consciousness relevant to their particular environment and gifts. Though they often felt alone in their immediate surroundings, they were actually part of a worldwide network of souls serving similar purposes. Your isolation has never been as complete as it seemed, Jesus said. You have always been connected to countless others like you, souls who share your frequency and purpose, even when physically distant. He showed me how chosen ones were gradually finding each other during this time, creating connections, communities, and collaborations that would help anchor the new consciousness more firmly in physical reality. These connections were becoming increasingly important as the pace of evolutionary change accelerated. The financial and relationship challenges chosen ones experience are directly connected to their evolutionary role, Jesus explained further. These challenges prevent them from becoming too invested in or dependent upon systems that are in the process of transformation. Their difficulties in finding lasting fulfillment in the old paradigm push them to pioneer new possibilities. I understood now that my struggles weren't personal failures but purposeful redirections, continually pushing me away from investing in the fading world and toward creating in the emerging one. My difficulties weren't punishment but preparation for the role I had come to fulfill. As chosen ones embrace their purpose fully, Jesus continued, they discover that the very qualities that created challenges in the old paradigm become their greatest strengths in the new. Their sensitivity becomes heightened perception. Their nonconformity becomes innovative thinking. Their financial struggles birth new models of abundance. Their relationship challenges develop deeper authenticity in connection. He showed me how the full gifts of chosen ones could only be expressed and recognized in the context of the emerging consciousness, not the fading one. Their challenges stemmed not from personal inadequacy but from being early arrivers, holding frequencies and awareness that systems and many individuals weren't yet ready to receive or integrate. The chosen one's time of greatest service is now beginning, Jesus said. As old systems increasingly demonstrate their limitations and more people awake to seek alternatives, those who have been preparing, often through significant personal challenge, are becoming increasingly recognized and valued for the gifts they carry. Jesus then addressed the painful misconceptions that many chosen ones carry about themselves and their experiences, misconceptions that often create additional suffering beyond the inherent challenges of their path. Many chosen ones interpret their difference as deficiency, he said. They believe there is something wrong with them because they don't fit easily into conventional structures or succeed by conventional measures. This is a fundamental misunderstanding that causes unnecessary suffering. He showed me how chosen ones often internalize social judgments about their worth, believing themselves inadequate, flawed, or failing because they struggle where others seem to thrive. This internalized shame compounds their challenges and obscures recognition of their unique gifts and purpose. Your difference is not a deficiency, Jesus said. It is a specialized design for specialized purposes. You struggle to fit into certain environments precisely because you were not designed for those environments, but for others that are still emerging. I felt a profound healing as this truth resonated through my consciousness, years of self-judgment and confusion giving way to a new understanding of my nature and purpose. The very qualities I had tried to fix or hide were revealed as essential aspects of my unique design for unique service. Another painful misconception is the belief that struggle indicates spiritual failure, Jesus continued. Many chosen ones believe that if they were doing it right spiritually, they would not experience material challenges or relationship difficulties. This misunderstanding creates additional layers of shame and self-judgment. He showed me how this misconception often stems from oversimplified spiritual teachings that suggest proper spiritual alignment automatically creates external ease and material abundance. While these principles contain partial truth, they fail to account for souls with specialized purposes that may temporarily require different experiences. Struggle itself is neutral, neither spiritual success nor failure, Jesus explained. It is simply experience that develops particular qualities and awareness. For chosen ones, certain struggles are not the result of misalignment, but of precise soul alignment with evolutionary purpose beyond immediate personal comfort. I understood now that my challenges weren't evidence that I was doing spirituality wrong, but were actually intricately connected to the specific spiritual service I had come to offer. My struggles weren't obstacles to my purpose but integral aspects of it, developing the exact qualities, insights, and compassion my purpose required. Perhaps the most painful misconception, Jesus continued, is the chosen one's belief that they are alone in their experience, that no one else understands or shares their perceptions and challenges. He showed me how this sense of fundamental isolation often begins in earliest childhood, when chosen ones first realize their perceptions and sensitivities differ from those around them, and deepens through adolescence and adulthood as repeated attempts to find belonging in conventional settings fail. This isolation has never been as complete as it seemed, Jesus assured me. You have always been connected to countless others like you, souls who share your frequency, perceptions, and purpose, even when physically distant from you. He revealed how chosen ones were increasingly finding each other during this time of accelerated evolution, creating connections, communities, and collaborations that validated their experiences and amplified their individual purposes into collective service. Your struggles with belonging have prepared you to create new forms of community based on resonance rather than convenience, authentic connection rather than social obligation, Jesus explained. Having experienced the limitations of conventional belonging, you are uniquely equipped to pioneer more fulfilling models of human connection. As these misconceptions were healed one by one, I felt layers of accumulated shame, self-doubt, and isolation dissolving, replaced by a profound recognition of purpose and belonging within a greater design than I had previously comprehended. Then Jesus guided me toward understanding how to transform the very challenges that had caused me pain into the foundation of my purpose and service. Your greatest wounds become your greatest gifts when fully integrated, he began. The specific struggles you have experienced are not random suffering, but specialized training for specialized purposes. He showed me how chosen one's challenges typically correspond precisely to the aspects of collective consciousness they came to help transform. Those who struggle with belonging often came to help birth new models of community. Those who face financial challenges often come to help create new relationships with abundance. Those who experience health difficulties often come to help evolve approaches to well-being. Your challenges have developed your compassion, insight, and wisdom in exactly the areas where humanity needs new perspectives, Jesus explained. Having navigated territory that many are only beginning to encounter, you carry maps that will assist countless others on similar journeys. I saw how my own struggles with belonging, with finding meaningful work, with reconciling spiritual values and material needs, all were developing expertise and understanding that would serve others facing similar challenges as collective consciousness continued to evolve. The key to transforming challenge into purpose is integration rather than escape, Jesus emphasized. Many chosen ones spend years trying to overcome or avoid their difficulties, seeking techniques, practices, or circumstances that might finally free them from struggle. This approach actually delays their emergence into full service. He continued, the greatest healers, teachers, and way-showers throughout history had not escaped their struggles. They embraced them, transforming every wound into a wellspring of wisdom and power. I saw clearly now how my isolation had not been a punishment, but rather a sacred boot camp for the soul, a time when the universe stripped away superficial attachments so that my true essence could emerge. Jesus showed me vivid scenes of my life, moments when my brilliant, unyielding light had inadvertently drained those around me, leaving me exhausted and yearning for connection, times when relationships faltered as my energy exposed hidden shadows within others. Your energy, so luminous and raw, attracts those unprepared to face their own darkness, he explained. In every encounter, you have been both a mirror and a catalyst for transformation. It is not your fault that others recoil, it is their own journey, and yours is to illuminate, not to conform. Then the panorama shifted, revealing the intricate dance of finances in my life. I saw not mere numbers or failed ventures, but the energetic imprint of a system misaligned with the frequencies I carried. The financial challenges you face, Jesus said, are not signs of inadequacy. They are the fertile soil from which a new paradigm of abundance will arise, one that honors spiritual wealth over material gain. The old rules of commerce and power were never meant for souls such as yours. Instead, you are here to pioneer a different way, to transmute scarcity into a radiant, soulful prosperity. In these revelations, I witnessed the echoes of ancestral patterns, generational wounds that had long chained my lineage to cycles of lack. Heal these bonds, he urged, and you liberate not only yourself but also those who come after you. Your journey is interwoven with the destiny of many, and in your healing lies the promise of collective renewal. Amid these deep insights, another thread emerged, the profound value of solitude. I saw how, in my moments of being alone, I was not abandoned but being meticulously prepared. Solitude is your sanctuary, Jesus said. It is in those quiet spaces that you confront the truths hidden within, shed the layers of fear and conditioned limitation, and rediscover the pure, unadulterated light of your soul. Then suddenly, with a tender yet insistent warmth, I felt a beckoning, a pull back to the realm of the living. The brilliant corridor of light began to recede, replaced by the soft, familiar hum of earthly existence. I felt my body stir, my heart resuming its steady beat as if welcoming me home. I awoke in the hospital bed, a serene smile tracing my lips, for I knew that I had returned not as the same person who once lay in that sterile room, but as one reborn through divine revelation. Every trial of isolation, every financial setback, every strained relationship now shimmered with purpose and possibility. They were not errors in my life story, but deliberate chapters designed to cultivate my inner strength, compassion, and visionary insight. Now, as I continue my journey on this earth, I embrace the full spectrum of my experiences, both the light and the shadows. I understand that my path, though often solitary and challenging, is a conscious calling to be a bridge between the old paradigms and a new, more enlightened world. My struggles have become my credentials, my wounds, the very maps that guide others toward their own awakening. In this new chapter, I move forward with deep gratitude and unwavering resolve, knowing that every step I take is part of a grand divine orchestration, a sacred mission to help awaken the world to its own boundless light.